I like my job because when you go home, you know you made a difference.
Because it's just happy. It's nice knowing it's a very rewarding job. Very rewarding when you've helped. It could be like the tiniest thing that you've helped someone with, but it's like massive to them.
Just generally making that difference, because like I say, some people don't see anybody, or they've got a son that lives 40 miles away that comes on a Wednesday, you know, and that's all they see in general. And it's just nice that you made a bit of a difference to them, you know, conversation, chat.
They are brilliant. Richard, the carer there, and Leah, the carer there, they are absolutely brilliant. I can't fault them.
It can be a very stressful job, but on the other hand, you get more rewards out of it than you do stressfulness. And it's nice going to a service user and they smile at you. You made the day. If they walk in and they smile at you, you know you've done something right.
I actually did something completely different before, but because I looked after my grandma a lot, so it like enforced me to go in and help other people. So if I could do it for my grandma, I'd do it for everyone else. And best job I've had so far, to be honest.
Come in and I might be feeling a bit low, and Richard will say, "Good morning, Doris," and I'd say, "Good morning, Richard, good morning, Leah." And I might be feeling a bit low, and then all of a sudden, them just saying them words, "Good morning," and "How are you today?" And they cheer me up. Really, really lovely.
It's like a lot of people, I think, oh God, caring, I couldn't do that. But community is so much different. Like, some people will just go and see it to have a chat with them because they're lonely and they just want to see someone through the day. It's not all like just all physical work. Sometimes it's social and interacting with them. It is quite flexible. I mean, I don't have to dedicate. If I wanted to dedicate my life to it, you can, but you don't always have to as well.
Sometimes I feel like I could put my arms around them and cuddle them because they're that good. And anybody that says they ain't, come and see me, I'll tell you.
The Send Local Offer is a website containing information and support for children and young people aged 0 to 25 within the Nottinghamshire area who have special educational needs or disabilities.
The Local Offer is like a hub of all information, everything put together on one page. It's really useful for special educational needs, and it's Nottinghamshire and surrounding counties, so even if you're bordering on a county you can still find useful information.
I use the website to look for things to do with my hobbies, such as performing arts activities and areas where I can voice my opinion.
You can find lots of useful information on the youth service for young people. For example, health, education, finding a job and hobbies and interests.
There's absolutely loads of information. There's health, education, social care, clubs, transport. It's all there.
You might want to use the local offer to see how you can get some extra support for your child at school, apply for a short break, or just simply see what clubs or activities are available in the local area. Even if you don't know what you're looking for, it's worth just having a look on there because there's so much information available.
We've used the local offer quite a lot over the years. It's been really useful for the girls.
When we needed to apply for an educational healthcare plan for our son, we went online and looked at the local offer, so we understood the process from start to finish and what steps we needed to take.
If you are a young person with special educational needs or disabilities living in Nottinghamshire, I would say give the Young People's Zone a try.
There is lots of information and you can get involved by sending an article, a blog or a vlog.
I think the local offer is a really useful resource for parents and carers living within Nottinghamshire. It's a comprehensive hub of information, and I found out about support and services that I wouldn't have otherwise known about.
All to today's meeting of the Governance and Ethics Committee. Item number 1 on the agenda are the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 27th of January. Those that were here, are you content that they are a correct record? Yep, thank you very much. I'll sign those at the end of the meeting. Apologies for absence. I think we've got 1 or 2 apologies. Councillor Upton is being substituted by Councillor Lawton. Councillor Cotty is being substituted by Councillor Lee. And I think Councillor Creamer, you will be substituting Councillor Payne. And Councillor E. Williamson is, I understand, not well. So her apologies are passed on to us for our acceptance. So are you content with those changes? Thank you. Item number 3, declarations of interest by members and officers, disclosable pecuniary and private interests. Are there any? Nope. I'm going to, with your permission, I'm going to move item number 4 to come after item number 7. Items 5, 6 and 7 are reports by Rob Disney, who has to get away for personal reasons as soon as he can. So if you will bear with us, we'll start with item number 5 on the agenda, which is the corporate governance update. The report is set out in front of you. There's 1 recommendation which I am happy to move.
I'll second that and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Moxon. Are there any comments or questions from officers or members? No? In which case, can we move to the vote? All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item is item number 6, which is the Internal Audit Term 2, 2021-22, and Report and Term 1, 22-23 Plan. And again, you have the report set out in front of you, and there are 2 recommendations on page 26, which I'm happy to move.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Again, are there any comments or questions from officers or members? No, in which case can we move to the vote? All those in favour? I think it's unanimous again. Thank you very much. Item number 6. Sorry, item number 7, my mistake. Is the corporate risk management update. And again, you have the report set out in front of you with one recommendation on page 40, which I move.
I'll second that recommendation.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members or officers? Yes, Councillor Lawton.
Rob, this is just a, I'm sure you're well on with it, but obviously the certain risks have increased dramatically over the last fortnight. I'm just asking how you're going to add that into the system to ensure that the authority is prepared for obviously the upcoming increases in fuel prices and the whole gambit of issues which are created by Russia invading Ukraine.
Thanks, Councillor Lawton. Yeah, you're quite right. There's actually a very opportune moment coming up next week. The Risk Safety and Emergency Management Board is meeting on Monday. It's receiving the first set, as the report says, it's receiving the first set of reports from each of the groups on what they're seeing around operational risks, one of which is, a lot of those risks that you've just mentioned, but obviously with the situation that we're seeing with the Ukraine, that it's giving a new trigger to some of those risks that we're already experiencing from other sources. So that will be the opportunity at next week's meeting to update that. And I think just this week, the council's been looking at what its touch points are really with Russia and looking into those and what we need to be doing in terms of supporting the stance that's been put out publicly. So yeah, there's a very early opportunity coming up on Monday for that.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to back up what Councillor Lawton's just said, it's very real and it's very immediate. Just on the transport side, bus operators have already flagged up the fact that their fuel prices that they operate, our school bus services, etc., and the commercial services, their fuel costs have gone up 20% since last September, and therefore that's already going to become a major risk to us being able to continue our services, and all that risk needs to be addressed.
Indeed, thank you. And we will be getting a report, no doubt, at our next meeting when you've had time to, when your group has had time to consider all of these risks, and we'll consider it at that time. So, if everyone is content with that, and thanks for raising that very important issue, if there are no further questions, all those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you, that's carried, so you can get off. So if we can revert to back to item number 4, which is our standard one on the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman's decisions, you will see the report set out in front of you, and I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'll second that recommendation.
You'll see that there is Appendix A attached, and there is one investigation where fault was found, but encouragingly, I think it's encouraging that we've actually dealt with it in-house, so that when the Ombudsman came to look at it, the Ombudsman can say, well, you've dealt with it, you've admitted that there was a mistake, and I've got nothing further to investigate, so that's it, go away, well done, Nottinghamshire, you've owned up to this mistake that was made. Again, it's in adult social care, and I've had a Teams meeting with the corporate director, because if you recall, this committee did ask that the corporate director and one or two of her senior staff come and talk to us about how they are going to deal with, and how they are dealing with, what appeared to be a theme of lack of communication in some cases. So I've set the scene for her as to what I think you are expecting as a committee, and they're going to look at dates to see whether or not they come along to the April one or the June committee. So they will be in front of us in the not too distant future, when hopefully they can set out their action plan to deal with those, with that theme that we thought was emerging on poor communications. I don't know whether there are any points that anybody else wants to raise. Sue, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, just to show that I looked into this particular case with the team manager in some detail, and it is a case of two processes clashing. It was a complex safeguarding, more than one, running alongside the complaints process, and the workers doing the safeguarding felt that it was correct to withhold some information from the early response to the complaint, or it may impact on the safeguarding, which is why once the safeguarding was complete, in the further complaint response, all the information was clarified that was originally asked.
Good, thank you. Councillor Creamer.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, I'm glad to see that it's being addressed as far as communication, but just to actually answer it, the grandmother's not, the safety concerns weren't investigated, just without going into the case. Was that actually due to the communication, or was it actually due to a lack of training someplace, or the methodology that were actually written down that there was conflicts in place? So is that side being addressed as well?
As I said, I think it was the fact that the workers involved in the more than one safeguarding that were cross-cutting felt that it was not appropriate to share information, part of the information that the complainant requested with them at that point until the multiple safeguarding investigations were completed. And when that work was completed, so that it was influenced by information being shared, the information was shared. So I think although the process clashed with what is our normal complaints process, we normally suspend fully complaints during safeguarding, and that was why we actually in this case partially responded. So I didn't find any reason for there being that staff weren't following protocols or weren't trained. I think it was a professional decision about how much to share with whom at what point.
Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sue. Just one really quick question. Did we explain that to the complainant at the time, that there was a safeguarding issue and we were looking into before you could divulge the information? I'm not sure how the process works with that. If you could just explain that for a little bit for me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. No.
With that, I mean, this is a public meeting, so everybody was made aware of what we could let people be aware of as soon as we possibly could, so as not to prejudice the investigation.
I think we have to accept that safeguarding is always going to be the number one priority, and at times that can be very frustrating. But I think there are perhaps still lessons to be learned by saying it's a safeguarding issue, therefore at the moment and possibly in the future, we cannot share this information with you. And I think if we do that, then we've behaved reasonably. But there are times when I think perhaps we're not as clear as that, and we wrap it up in legalese, dare I say, which is not helpful. So I hope that reassures you. But you can obviously ask those questions of the corporate director when she comes before us, either in April or June.
Chair, that is what you've just said is exactly what I was thinking. Thank you.
Great minds think alike.
Be worried.
Are there any more questions on that one? No. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried again. Right. So we move now then to item number 8 on the agenda, which is the whistleblowing update, which is set out on starting on page 45 of your pack, and we can see that there is one recommendation at the bottom of page 47, which I move.
I'll second that recommendation.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions? Sorry, Councillor Lawton, are you waving at me, or have you got your hand up?
No, I've got a hand up if that's all right.
Are you putting two fingers up or what?
I don't know. Who am I going to address the question to? Is it Simon, is it?
No, so Emma's here.
Oh, right, Emma. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah. Emma,
Sorry.
we're still
Hello.
well below the national average as far as whistleblowing is concerned. I'm just wondering what you put that down to.
It's unknown at the moment. We are reviewing the policy, ensuring it's fit for purpose, ensuring that there's sufficient clarity within the guidance and policy so that everyone affected by it knows exactly how to make a whistleblowing referral. I simply can't answer the question.
Well, that's an honest answer, Councillor Lawton. I think I'm going to try that one in council and see if I get away with it. Councillor Creamer.
Just very quickly, just on the recommendation itself, is there a timescale at all to actually replacing it with the view to replacing it with a whistleblowing code? Is there any rough timetable at all or targets?
Did you catch that question?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Hopefully by the end of the summer. It all depends on officer availability.
Provide further information.
So why we're being a bit vague is obviously because we're a bit busy at the minute. You may have noticed doing some work on the transition to a cabinet system. We're trying to give ourselves some wiggle room to give ourselves the time to do the work and do it properly, and also think about the training aspects which Emma's mentioned in terms of awareness raising, so everybody knows and understands what the procedure is and how to use it, as well as having reviewed it and maybe made it a bit more accessible, a bit more written in plain English, as we've just had that conversation. So we're being a bit vague because we're just trying to give ourselves a bit of wiggle room. So I think Emma's right. I think it will have to be, in the autumn, after the summer. Yeah.
Okay.
I just got to be honest about capacity.
Yeah. I would thank Emma for joining us this afternoon. She's not well.
Thank you very much.
And so bear that in mind. But she certainly put you in your place, Councillor Lawton. So she's not that poorly. Thank you very much. Anyway, I take it there are no more questions, are there, on that? So the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is the Councillors' Divisional Fund. This is an update. There is a recommendation at the end, or at least on page 2, recommendation on page 51, which I'm happy to move.
I'll second that recommendation and reserve my right.
Thank you. You will note from the report that there was a cross-party working group consisting of myself, Councillor Moxon, Councillor Errol Henry and Councillor John Wilmot, and I'm very grateful for the input. Oh, I'm sorry, and Councillor Barnfather. I'm very grateful for the input that each of those people made, and we came to an agreement. This was what was agreed by that cross-party working group. And I think it's now a much clearer set of rules and regulations. There will be some bits at the edges which may need further interpretation by officers. We are, as you will see, moving towards a fully electronic system, and we hope to get that in place, but again, there are obvious pressures. We hope to get that in place for the start of the new financial year. I don't know whether that's still on track. It may or may not be.
Probably not, to be honest, Chair. I think what's more realistic is that we'll be able to revise the form in the meantime to reflect the new policy, with a view to bringing in electronic system a bit further down the line.
So there's a great degree of honesty this afternoon, and this is usual. But I'll come to you in a moment, Councillor Henry. You'll be pleased to know that I have volunteered all members of this committee to act as guinea pigs to trial the new electronic system. And I knew you'd be keen, and I knew I wasn't taking liberties. So thank you very much for volunteering. Over to you, Councillor Henry.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I just wanted to say, I've worked on that the group to look at the reviewing this, and I thought it was a really, really good cross-party working arrangement. It went down very well because for me, what it's done is put together proper control on how we spend our money, and it's also make sure that how the money is used, it's used appropriately. So it's a better system, I think, is in place, and I think hopefully going forward we'll see some benefit from it.
Thank you very much for that. That was exactly the purpose behind it. And the fact that you spent a lot of time in Barbados recently has nothing. Sorry, Jamaica has nothing to do with it. Councillor Smith, followed by Councillor Clark.
Sorry, just a quick one on recommendation 9 about the maximum of £1,000 per application. I do have a little concern with that, just purely for the fact that one of the ones that I've recently done was for a defibrillator that actually cost £1,300, and I'm just concerned that we're going to be restricted. I don't know if there was a way that we could put a line in that, so with liaison with the monitoring office, for example, for specific things, because defibrillators are more than £1,000, and that is for that'll help a lot of residents in my division. But we couldn't have done that for less than £1,000, so I've just got a concern around that one.
I think that's a fair point, and we did consider it. The purpose behind putting that limit in was to actually ensure that councillors spend their money across their division. Going back many years, I remember one councillor, is on our side in fact, who used at the end of the financial year to give all £5,000 to his local school where he was a governor. Now, that's not what the money is intended for. So that's why we've put that cap in. I think we did agree, didn't we, Mr. Ford, that we would look at each individual case if that arose, and particularly if you'd got, say, cumulative applications. We were thinking in terms of parish councils. Parish councils often organise things on behalf of the community, and each individual event may come in at below 1,000, but cumulatively it may go over 1,000. We didn't want to restrict that. Can you think of a way around this? Because I take that point.
I think, I mean, the obvious thing would be to increase it slightly based on what's said, because I do know defibrillators are a common use of members at CDF, albeit on occasion it tends to be a contribution towards the total cost rather than funding the total cost. So you would see a wide range of variance of payments on that particular subject. So I think what the thing to do is it's open to discussion and open to debate, but that was definitely the point of having set that limit at that amount was, and clearly I could give you a load of payments from the current year that exceed the £1,000 mark, but it was exactly what Councillor Owen mentioned about just trying to get that better spread across the organisation, across your whole patch as well. Really. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. What we did do as part of the working group is say it isn't a £1,000 limit to that organisation in any financial year, which was the starting point for it. So we did come back and say actually, there'd be nothing stopping you funding the same organisation on more than one occasion throughout the year. But that doesn't solve the problem that you're talking about there, Councillor Smith.
Mm. I'm reluctant to keep putting an increase on the limit. To be honest, what we did say that we would review this policy after a year of operation. Can we accept what we're saying at the moment and come back in 12 months' time and see if it is causing real problems? Would that be a fair compromise?
Yeah, I think that would be a fair compromise. I mean, personally, I would like it if we could just put a line in there saying in conjunction with, in exceptional circumstances, with conjunction with the monitoring officer. I would prefer that, but if the committee aren't leaning that way, I understand that as well.
No, I wouldn't want to put the burden, even more burdens, on the monitoring officer. Quite frankly, I think that's a little bit unfair because she'll want a pay rise if you do, and we can't count on. Councillor Lawton, you're muttering. Is it for our ears or not?
I agree with the £1,000 limit. I think the view that it spreads the money more readily around different organisations within a councillor's division is a laudable one and a sensible solution to the problem, having a £1,000 limit. I think if most of our other funding streams require match funding anyway, and therefore asking an organisation to come up with 300 quid, I don't think is excessive.
No, I mean, you've been incredibly generous. I only gave 500 towards my organisations wanting defibrillators, but you're obviously a softer touch than me. Councillor Creamer, did you indicate?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you never hog. Yeah, just on that, I actually agree with Bruce. Strangely enough, the £1,000 I think is actually a good limit, and the reason for that is if you actually increase the limit, at some time you're going to have to increase it again for other exceptional circumstances. And what I would suggest, exactly what suggested, is that perhaps on the form itself there is a block for exceptional. And the county councillor can put into that block exceptional, why it's exceptional. It'll eventually come back to this committee anyway to decide whether it was right or wrong, and the monitoring officer doesn't have to literally get involved. So passing a matter of trust back to the county councillor, but they would have to explain why it's an exception, why it's gone over £1,000 this time, or why it's the third payment taking it over 1,000.
Yeah, I take your point on that, Councillor Creamer, but I would like to go forward with the £1,000 limit at this point, and we will monitor it over this next year to see if it's causing any real issues. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think if we specifically monitor that aspect, so we've got data on that, and we can see if it's a problem or not.
Councillor Henry.
Yes, thanks, Jay. I mean, if I had my way, it'd be less than £1,000. That's what I'd want, but obviously we have made a decision.
I talked of compromise, didn't I? And we did compromise.
I think £1,000 is way beyond what we should give, and I think the talk you said earlier on about spreading the costs across our wards to different organisations is what is encouraged. That way we can give more of our organisation, more, sort of more help basically. So £1,000, very generous.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
You're more Scrooge-like than many of us. Yeah. I think we've had a reasonable discussion. If there's nothing else, any new points? Oh, sorry, Councillor Clark.
I was only just going to mention, Chairman, the 4 and 5 and 7 to a certain extent. I'm glad to see the reference to the payments to individuals into profit-making organisations. In that, I understand the concern that was probably raised, but there are instances, and I'm sure we've all experienced them, where an individual is organising a street party or something for a village, and there is no other mechanism for helping them with that payment, and provided the councillor is satisfied that it's proper, appropriate, and is able to provide evidence to an auditor should it become necessary, and similarly to profit-making organisations, that it is positively in support of a community event, as opposed to just benefiting the company or the organisation that's providing the service. And I think those caveats that that audit facility is there available, and I think and I welcome it, and I think it's absolutely fine.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say we did agree in the working group that there would be probably enhanced checks on those sort of applications by officers, and they'd look for an audit trail. So I think you can be reassured on that.
We're hoping to build it into the automation of the system, so at some point further down the line, the organisation gets an email saying, "You said you were going to spend it on that. Can you give us some evidence of it?"
Thank you, Councillor Moxon.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think we talked about during certainly one of the meetings that we were going to potentially put together something for these groups or organisations that wanted to look for funding, where they could be sort of signposted to different places. So that may well help the £1,000 situation with that, where they could be signposted to somewhere else to get the extra funding. But it was also for potentially for individuals and on how to set up groups and get group bank accounts and that sort of thing. So I think if we are able to put all that information together in one place, that would certainly help with probably quite a few of the queries that have come up today.
You're quite right. We did agree to do that, didn't we, Mr. Ford? That would be done as part of the electronic form application. That people would be signposted to other possible funding streams. Okay. Well, if there are no further comments or questions, the report has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. So we come to the work programme. The only thing we have to add when we've got it confirmed is the complaints regarding adult social care and health. So as soon as that date has been confirmed, that will be added to the work programme. Are there any other issues? Happy to accept the work programme? Yep, thank you very much. Well, it's been quite a long meeting this afternoon, so thank you for your forbearance and patience, and I declare the meeting closed.